So we are going to allow our words in our dictionary to have repeated letters.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, that's why I was writing down XX squared and everything. This is a word, X, 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 X. So this would be, we could shorten this to be X to the 6th, but this is what the word would look like when we wrote it out.
Okay.
We could also have this word, X, Y, X, Y, X, Y, X, Y. In fact, we could do it, we could use that word as many times, however, we didn't count, but eventually with the cube, this was equal to 1.
Yep.
But in the free group where there's no additional relations, that word, which was equal to 1 for the cube, would just be this word, and it wouldn't simplify.
Yeah.
Okay. And they can be of any length at all. So now I want you to write down a. Why don't you go first this time? Why don't you write down a new word that we have not seen before?
All right. How about X inverse, Y inverse, X, X, Y, X inverse.
Okay, very good. And why don't you write down a word that we have not seen before?
So something like X, X, Y, X, inverse, Y inverse.
Okay, very nice. Now how many words do you think there are? Now it's not 24.
Infinitely many.
Okay, how many do you think?
Well, since they can be, as long as you want, there's going to be infinitely many.
It's going to be infinitely many. Okay. And this is a diagram I got off of Wikipedia. I suppose I have to double check that that's in focus. It looks like it's relatively in focus. Oh, and Wikipedia called it A and B instead of X and Y. But we can think of the X's going this way, X inverse going this way. So A is going to be the X,
Alright.
and the B is going to be the Y. So why don't you show me on this graph the word X, Y, X inverse, X inverse.
So we have, so X is A and Y is B.
Yeah. So we go
have
X,
Y,
Y,
X inverse, X inverse.
There you go. So we go to that dot.
That dot.
Okay, and why don't you show me, just make up a 4-letter for your brother.
So we have X inverse, Y inverse.
That's a good example. Okay, so why don't you do X inverse, Y inverse, Y.
X inverse, X inverse, Y inverse, Y. So we're
Okay.
going to go here.
So what does that simplify to be?
So it's just X inverse, X inverse.
That's X inverse, X inverse. Okay, so this is our graph. So this is a picture of what the free group looks like. So before we go on to study this picture a bit more and its relationship to Banach-Tarski, I want you to tell me a little bit about what you see in this graph.
Well, I'm seeing a fractal here.
Okay.
And
So it looks like what you can do is you can start with you start with you start with 4 lines going out and of length 1, and then you have the length of the line and make 3 lines coming off of each of the endpoints, and then you keep doing that forever.
All right. What do you see?
well, I'm sort of seeing that, but I'm also seeing like there's a large square, and then there's sort of some smaller squares, and then smaller squares still, and then more smaller squares.
It's kind of like the Coke snowflake with squares, a little bit.
Yeah, interesting.
And there's a square
Like
in here.
it looks like you kind of start with this. If you do this blankness here, you start with a square, and then you put squares on each of the corners, and then you put squares on those corners, and you repeat.
Okay. All right, cool. Now I'm going to show you a pretty remarkable thing about this picture.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.